Hi there, Leena. Let's take a look at your new tasks today. The first one is about rainfall in these three areas. Let's see what you said. Overall, okay, the given graph compares the amount of rainfall occurring in England. Because why is it occurring? Because it's which occurred. It's a reduced relative clause, and so what you need here is the ing form and not the ed. So, the given graph compares the amount of rainfall occurring in England, Scotland, and Wales in each month of 2018. Overall, while the three regions had different amounts, S, of rainfall each month, it rained a relatively similar amount throughout all the regions in July, which recorded more than 100 ml. The month when it rained most unevenly by region was the month of February, when England had the highest record of rainfall at 120, whereas Scotland had the lowest at 20. Okay, we'll talk about this a little further once we finish the entire answer. By comparing by comparing months, the record of England shows that it had rainfall between 90 to 120 ml in January to April and July to December, but the lowest at 70 ml in May and June. In Scotland, more than 100 ml of rain occurred in January, March, July, October, and December, and less than 50 in February and April. In May, June, August, September, and November, it recorded between 50 to 100. Lastly, in Wales, it rained more than 100 ml in May, June, and November, and less than 50 in January, April, September, and October. In February, March, April, August, and December, it rained between 50 to 100 ml. Okay, so, and you put the word count. That's very helpful. Thank you. Okay, so, let me tell you a little bit about this. Perhaps in one of your previous answers, I suggested to you using ranges, and you have certainly done that in this answer. So if this is your response to a suggestion that I made, great. Or if it's something that you just decided to do on your own, also fine. But there are a few things that we really absolutely have to address in this essay. First of all, with these, with your overview, it's too detailed. An overview is really just that. It's a, how can I say this? It's a look at the graph, which really gives the main trend, the overriding feeling, the overriding sense, the thing that really stands out most. That's the point of the overview. It's not supposed to get into any numbers. It's not supposed to have any data. So all of this was just far too detailed. So what you could have said instead was something like, overall, while the three regions had different amounts of rainfalls each month, or you could have said, while each of the regions fluctuated considerably, all three had a relatively similar amount in July. Done. Okay? That would have been an overview. This was just, there's no way to distinguish what you wrote from a detailed paragraph. Okay? So, then, let's go back to this issue here of your ranges. It was too monotonous. What you did was, you found this way to cover all these months and all this information by using these ranges, but it was too much. It would have been effective if you had done it once or twice throughout your answer, but the entire paragraph is structured like this. So it becomes monotonous, it becomes repetitive, there's no range of language because everything is identical. And it's difficult for a reader to understand what the trends are here. So you tell me what the highs are, and then you tell me, well, the lowest is this. And then you tell me the highest was this, 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 and this, and the lowest was this, this, and this. And then the highest was this, this, and this, and then the lowest was... So it's just really, really repetitive. You have to break it up a little more. You have to provide a little more variety in your language, even if that means sacrificing some of the information. Yeah, because you just don't need to include every single piece of information. You shouldn't include every single piece of information because there's 36 and you can't possibly include them all. So definitely don't. That's my feedback. You have to vary up your language here a little more, and you have to give fewer details here. Okay? So go ahead and correct that, and let's take a look at this next one. Okay, so let's see what you said. The given chart compares the monthly sales records of two major cell phone operator, spelled wrong, brands, iOS and Android in the year 2018. Overall, both Android and iOS recorded similar amounts of sales in September and October, with a gap less than 5 million, a gap of less than 5 million in both months. Both companies recorded around 70 sales. The two companies recorded most drastically different amounts of sales in May, with the gap of 100 million. iOS oversold Android with a sales record, or the sales record is okay, fine, of 130 million, whereas Android sold only 10 million cell phones. All right, this is exactly like the previous essay, where it's not an overview. It started like an overview, but it became just too full of detail, and it ceases to be an overview when you do that. All right? Like I said, for it to be an overview, it has to just focus on the main trends and not this and not so much information about the actual data. All right? Okay, so moving on. By comparing between months, iOS sold more than 100 million cell phones in February, March, May, and June and August, and less than 50 million in January, April, and July. From September to December, their sales record remained between 50 to 100 million. Android sold more than 100 million cell phones without the of in January, March, November, and December, and less than 50 million in February and May. In April, June, and from August to October, their sales record remained between 50 to 100 million. Okay. You did exactly the same type of thing as you did in the previous essay. I didn't mind it as much here because you only were comparing the two different cell phone companies. So it didn't feel as, I mean, you just didn't have as much data really to record. So, but it's still a little, I mean, it's two almost identical sentences. So you're probably wondering, well, okay, Ellen, so what do you suggest I do instead? Okay, well, let's look at this. I assume this is what you were answering. So there are a ton of ways you could do this. What you ended up doing is you just kind of took the whole year and like that was it. I think that this is one that really lends itself to being split in half. Okay, so look what happens. You've got iOS really dominating the first half of the year with these 4 months where it's above 100 million. Okay, so you could have just said something like that. So for the first half of 2018, iOS dominated the market with more than 100, yeah, it doesn't say, I assume it's million as well, 100 million sales in February, March, May, and June. Okay? In contrast, Android only reached these levels in 2 months, specifically January and March. For the remainder of the first half of the year, sales for both companies were at or under 50 million. Done. Okay? Then, in the second half of the year, iOS started out particularly low at around 30 million, or whatever that number is, only to increase fourfold the following month. Following this period, it remained relatively stable around 30 million for the rest of the year. Okay? Then, Android, on the other hand, began the second half of the year at around 100 million, then also having a period of stability around 30 million. However, it ended the year at the highest levels of the year in November, December at 130 million. All right, so you can see that what I'm really doing here is just changing up my language. I mean, it doesn't feel like all of my sentences are just a repetition of the one that came before it. So this is what I want you to think about doing a little bit. You can see that I still use these ranges much like you did, but I varied up my language a little more. Okay, let's take a look at your last essay. Okay, and here it is. Many people believe that it's better to learn something in a group rather than individually. Do you agree or disagree? Let's see what you said. There are many ways to learn something, and each person has a different preference whether to learn in a group or individually. Especially these days, the importance of learning with one's apostrophe S peer group has been illuminated as an effective way to learn easier and faster, and some say that it is even better than learning individually. I partially agree with this statement, and I partially agree with this statement given that it truly depends on the type of subject that you want to learn. Okay, let's see what you said after that. The greatest benefit that you can get by learning in a group is that because you said you here, so I don't know why you went to they. So the greatest benefit that, how about this? The greatest benefit that one can get by learning in a group is that one has learning partners for motivation, feedback, and knowledge. By setting a common goal and checking others' status on achieving a learning goal. All right, there's something happening with the grammar here. So get rid of by. The by is not helping you. Setting a common goal and checking others' S apostrophe status on achieving a learning goal can inspire you and help you keep up with what you are learning. This could fit well when you aim to learn something that you need others' opinion or motivation on. Okay, you need an opinion on something, such as sports. You would need someone who can correct your position and stimulate you not to give up. Let's see. Okay, all right, fair enough. However, learning in a group also has a critical drawback by which it can rather degrade your motivation, especially when you form a learning group with your close friends. Many people tend to think that they would enjoy learning more if they are with their close friends, but this can lead you to forget about your initial aim of study. When I was in my university, I gathered my close friends to study together on some common courses that we were taking, and most of them ended up not being as productive as what we initially thought. Okay, not being as productive as we initially thought, not what. Get rid of what. More excuses came out of why they could not participate in the group study each day, and they became, more excuses came out as to why they could not participate in the group study each day, and they began not prioritizing our study meetings in the daily schedule because they expected that the other members would understand as close friends. So what's the takeaway here, Leena? What's your conclusion to this issue? So here we need something like, therefore, starting in a group certainly has numerous disadvantages, something like that, okay? Therefore, if you want to learn something that requires greater concentration and a well-organized scheme, individual study could yield better results, S, in a shorter period. Okay, it's fine. Looking at the length of your paragraphs, I would have liked maybe another sentence here because it's only like 2.5 lines long, whereas you had this was 4 lines long. It felt more kind of complete than this did. So try to make sure that you're spending a relatively equal amount of time developing your paragraphs. Now, I don't want you to get obsessive and like count the words and make sure that the words are equal, but do make sure that you cover both topics to a relatively equal degree. Okay? This was good. It didn't have some of the problems that your task ones did. So I enjoyed it. Grammar was fine. There's some little things here and there. Don't forget about the template as well, okay? So go ahead and correct these, and let's see what you'll bring us the next time, all right? Good luck.